Today is the third day of Cholamoid. Hayoim Chamisha Yomim Loimer, right? Hayoim Chamisha Yom Loimer.
It's the fourth day.
It's the fourth day of Cholamoid? Because you're right. If that's right. That's right. Okay. So Zog the Heilige Mishnah on Daf Peivav Amaralev. Today's Daf is Daf Peivav. We're learning now about olives. Zog the Heilige. We're going to learn about Zug Olive of olive. Shloisha Zeisim Hein. There were 3 harvests done for olive trees. Ubehen Shloisha Shmonim. And each harvest, they did 3 separate extractions of oil on those pairs. So in total, there were 9 separate extractions of oil from every Zayas tree. Hazayas Arishon. What was the first harvest? Megargadoi Bidoi Shazayas. Now the Gemara is going to ask a shaila: is it megargadoi with a reish or is it megalgaloi with a lamed? So it depends. And if you're from Lodge, if you're from Wodge, it's megalgaloi, and if you're from England, it's megalgaloi. Or
no, if you want to
make fun of Polishes, so he says if you're Oriental, you say megalgaloi because you can't say a lamed. But there's a shaila in the Gemara what it means. Megargadoi b'reish azayis means the first harvest was from the olives that were all the way on top of the tree that got sunbathed, so it's ripened faster and better. And megargoi means you don't take all the olives, you just pick and choose from the olives that are ripened. Megalgaloi means they waited and delayed the harvest until all of the olives at the top of the tree were ripened. Then the koitish, they would crush them a little bit to break the skin, not to squeeze oil out. And then they would put it into a basket which acted as a strainer, and then the oil oozed out of the olives naturally without them even being pressed. That's the purest of oil. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he was even makbid on a higher level of purity, and he did svivais asal. If you pile up the olives at the bottom of the sal, so there'll be shmorim and oil mixed in, and some of the pieces might drain out. But if you only put the olives around the side of the sal, then oil will drain down to the bottom, and then the bottom, which is the strainer, will even strain it even better. So there'll be less pieces in it. Zer Rishon, that's the first extraction of oil from this harvest. Then then they took these olives and they placed them under pressure, under a press. So now we're squeezing oil out of them. They didn't want to use a press. That's too much pressure. It would possibly also release pieces. So they only weighed it down with stones. Zesheni, that was the second extraction of oil. Then chazer v'tochen. Then they already ground it down, to ground the olives, to make them into pieces, to extract even more oil, vitan, and they once again press them, zashlishi. Zok the Mishnah, harishan le'menorah. Only the first extraction, where the oil oozes out naturally without being pressed, that oil is kosher for the menorah. But vashar le'menachos, the other oil would be good for the menachos. So you might ask, what do you use better grade oil for? To cook or for your motor oil for your car? To cook. So what's happened is that by the mincha we use a lesser grade oil than we use to light the menorah. The Mishnah is going to ask that question. Hasheni, the second harvest is megargeroi beroi shagag. There's 2 pshatim in this. One pshat in Rashi is that they would take from the lower level of the tree, not the top level, but those were not fully ripened, because they don't have as much sunlight. So you'd have to spread them out on your roof for sunlight should hit them, and then that'll start them oozing and ripening. However, there's another pshat that says Megari B'Sechel Shagag is if you're standing on your roof, you're about 12 feet off the ground. That's the level of the tree from 12 to 18. That was the middle level. So Megari Shagag, it's those olives that you could get by standing on your roof and leaning over. The kaitesh, they would once again do exactly the same process as for the first. The kodesh means they break the skins on them. Again, Shlishi, the third harvest, had a slightly different process, because those were the olives from the bottom of the tree that rarely got sunlight and never will fully develop. So in order to get their juices to flow, it takes a little bit extra work. So first, oitenu beveis habad, they would just put it into big containers and let them sit in the base abad, squashed together with other olives. Achiyilk until they got spoiled. They actually got rotten and mushy. But now there's smelly juices coming out of them before the oil. So therefore, umaleyu umenagve b'roishagag. Then they would take these smelly, rotten olives. They would put it on the rooftops, and all the smelly juice would drain out of them. And then they're ready to have their oil extracted, and then the same process. Kaitesh v'noisel sechasal. Rabbi Yehuda Omer sevivai sasal. Zarishoin. Toin b'koyer Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'avonim zasheni. Chazer v'tachan v'tan zashlishi. And then again, Harishain leBenorah v'Ashar leMenachos, in each harvest, the first extraction of oil, which came out without squeezing, that can be used for the Menorah. The rest of the oil you can use for the Menachos.
So for Menachos, is it better to use Sheni?
We're going to discuss this. That's a very good ha'ara. That's the Gemara is going to discuss that. Huh? No, the Mishnah is going to ask, why would we need a higher grade of oil for the Menorah than for the Menachos? Rav Baruch is asking, not this Mishnah, the next Mishnah. He's asking, by the Mincha, you're also supposed to use the best oil, or maybe B'davka not to use the best oil? So Zakimar Iboilu, Megargeroi Tanan, meaning you pick the olives that are ripened, or Megalgaloi Tanan, wait till they're all ripened. Tashma. The Tanya, this will be a very easy raya because it says it beferish. Shemin zayis mizeisoi. What if someone says, I'm going to donate shemin zayis to the Menorah? The halach is mizeisoi. He has to get oil that comes off the olives right off the tree. Now, I can't imagine it means literally off the tree because I don't think oil drains out of the olives off the tree, but it means the first sug, the stuff that comes out without crushing them. Mikan amru. So therefore they said, Zayis Rishon Megal Galoi Beroisha Zayis, the Konsoy Levei Sabat. So we have a brisa that elaborates on the process, but it says Megal Galoi with Halamid, and the Gemara assumes that this brisa is a brisa that we know is Farlaslich, V'toichnoi Berechaim. Notice there's a small difference. Our Mishnah says V'koitshoy, and the brisa says V'toichnoi Berechaim. Toichnoi Berechaim is grinding it. It's a much more grinding. There's more pieces involved. Koitesh means a mortar and a pestle. So you take the pestle and you crush it, but you don't grind it as much. That's going to become an issue soon. V'noishnoi besalin shemen hayotzim mimenu zeh haYirishon. Ton v'koyer shemen hayotzim mimenu zeh haYisheni. Chazar u'parak v'tachan v'tan zeh haYishlishi. Harishon leMenorah v'Ashar leMenachos v'chein zeh haYisheni. But v'zeh haYishlishi had a slightly different process. Oitenu b'beis abad ad sheyiloka. Then umayel l'rosh hagag, and now an extra tidbit. V'oisa kamin tamra ad sheyazuvu meimov. They didn't just spread them flat on the roof; they piled them up like a pyramid, which is the shape of a date, is wide at the bottom and narrow on top, so that the bad juices should leave these olives. Then same process. Ton b'koyer shem hayotzim mimenu zeh haYisheni. Parak chazer v'tachan v'tan zeh haYishlishi. Harishon leMenorah v'Ashar leMenachos. Rabbi Yehuda argues in three ways. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda only argues in one way. Here, Rabbi Yehuda argues in three ways. In our Mishnah, he argues in two ways. Here he argues in three ways. So you see a new machlokes that we didn't see until now, which we saw already. Who holds that you're koitesh and you're not toichein? It's Rabbi Yehudi. Our Mishnah says koitesh. So Pashas, the Tanakam of our Mishnah, that says koitesh is Rabbi Yehuda. The problem is toichasal. Our Tanakama also says you put the olives toichasal, not sivivosasal. That's also the Rabbanon. So our Mishnah is a schizophrenic. Does it hold like Rabbi Yehuda, or does it hold like the Rabbanon? Zot Gemara, Haitana Savar Lakavasei Bechada. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda lagabi koitesh. Ufalgal Bechada, but he argues on Rabbi Yehuda that you have to put it sivivosasal, and he holds like the Rabbanon. You can put it at the bottom of the sal. So at the end of the day, we have three shitas. Zok Heilige Mishnah Baiter. This is the Mishnah that you've been waiting for. Comparing the different grades of oil. Harishon shabarishon ein lamayla himenu. That is the best of the best. But Hasheni shabarishon, Harishon shabasheni are shovin. But you might ask, what do you mean shovin? The Rishon Shabasheni you could use for the Menorah. The Sheni Shabarishon you can't use for the Menorah. So the Gemara is going to ask that kasha. Hashlishi Shabarishon, Vasheni Shabasheni, Varishon Shabashlishi, all those three are Shavin. Hashlishi Shabasheni, Vasheni Shabashlishi, they're Shavin. And the Shlishi Shabashlishi, that's the bottom of the barrel. Ein Lamate Menu. Frek the Gemish to this question. Af kol ha-menachos ha-yu bin shit and shemen zayis zoch. The menachos in tzvur should also require shemen zayis zoch. Pasha de kal v'chaymer. Ma menorah she'ena lachila te'una shemen zayis zoch. The menorah was just for light. It needs shemen zayis zoch. Menachos she'ena lachila ein oidin she'yitanu shemen zayis zoch. Talmud loimer t'gzeres hakosov. By the menorah it says zoch koses lamor. That sugi is in Tetzaveh, at the beginning of Tetzaveh, we're talking about the menorah. Why does the Torah have to speak out the extra word lamor to tell you Zoch Kosus Lamor, Ben Zoch Kosus Lamanachis? It's a Gzeras HaKosov. If you want to know the Svara behind it, there's a beautiful shtickle at the beginning of the Sidur Shal Shabbos that analyzes these psukim at the beginning of Tetzaveh in great detail. And I would tell you what it says if I would remember what it says. But I remember it was a very geshmaka binyan about it, and he compares it to Ner Shel Shabbos and what they do, but I don't remember exactly what it said. Zok the Heilige Gemara, but I ain't showing in the Sidur Shel Shabbos. Zok the Heilige Gemara on that Pei Vav Amud Beis. Shavin, you're telling me that Sheni Shebarishon and Rishon Shebesheni are Shavin? Va'amrit Rishon Lemenorah Bashar Lemenachos. So how could you say Shavin? Omar B'Nachman Yitzchak, my Shavin Lemenachos. Avada Lagabi the Menorah, it has to be dafka the first extraction. But when you're looking at quality oil, because everyone, when you bring a carbon, you got to bring the best of what you're able to find. So now you're bringing a mincha, and you have a discussion, you have a selection of different oils, and you want to know which oil you should pick for your mincha. So the Mishnah is telling you the levels of quality of oils. So when you pick your oil for mincha, you'll know what's better, what's not better, and then you'll pick the best one available. You'll also know sometimes which ones are on the equal level, so then you just go for the best price, of course. Gewaltig. Like today, the oil was in the matter, and they were saying that it tastes good. I said, you had to taste it to know that it tastes good. As soon as they told me the price, I knew that it tasted good. Right? Zok to Gemara. Av kol ha-menachos ha-yu b'din. Tandur Rabbanan, zoch. It says zoch. Ein zoch elanoki. It means purest of oil. Or Yudoimer. Koses. Ein koses elakotush. It means you just break the skin and let the oil ooze out. Yochel yezach koses posel lemenachos. It says lemor v'loy lemenachos. So you might think it might be posel lemenachos. That was your shaila. So you see, you're even allowed to use the best grade of oil for mincha as well. So why does the Torah say davka for mincha, not davka for menorah, not for mincha? To tell you that you don't have to use the most expensive oil. Why shouldn't you use the most expensive oil? It's too expensive. And Rashi explains the menorah they use 3.5 aluk in a day total. But Menachos uses more, plus there could be hundreds of Menachos brought in a day. It'll bankrupt the system. So therefore, you don't use such a high-grade oil. If you remember, we had this exact svara earlier, and the Gemara gives an example of why was the Torah Chas Alman Yisrael, because when the Rebbeinu Shalom gave Mayim in the Midbar by the Be'er Miriam, it says you should drink water and you should give to drink your behemoths. And Rashi says, you see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want the behemoths to die. It was Chasa al Mamoin and Shal Yisrael. The problem is Rashi over here doesn't quote that Gemara. Rashi over here says, where do you see Chasa Rachman al Mamoin and Shal Yisrael? From the fact that the Torah says, V'tzivas HaKainu finus habayis. Before he checks a nega bayis, he should clear the bayis out. Why? Because we don't want the kalim to become tamei. Rashi adds more. We're not talking about metal or fabric or ore or eights, because those could be toibled. What kalim are a total loss? Cheres. So the Torah was chasa even al mamonin shel they're cheres. So the Shem Bamerg, why would Rashi pick this example when our Gemara a couple of days ago used a different example? Zok the Gemara weiter. Tzaves b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu elecha shemen zay zoch, the beginning of Parshas Tetzaveh. Amar Rab Shmuel bar Nachmani v'yikchu elecha. The whole purpose of the menorah is l'toivus klal Yisrael. V'loy li. It doesn't help Hashem because loy la'oira nitzarech. I don't need your light. Now, normally, where do you have your chandelier? Over your table, so you can see what you're eating. But that's not how it was set up in the Beis Hamikdash. Shulchan b'tzafain. The shulchan was b'tzafain, so coming into the heichal was on your right side, u'menorah b'darim, and the menorah was on your left side. And there was a mizbeach in between. Clearly, the light wasn't where the shulchan was. Clearly, it's not for the purposes of eating. Amar Abzreik, Amar Belazar, loy la'achila nitzarech. I don't need the light for food, and I don't need light. I don't need a shulchan to eat. I don't need a menorah to light. It's all for covered of Klal Yisrael. Vayas lebayis. Now, if you go to the old city of Eretz Yisrael and you look at the holes in the walls, you'll notice that if you're looking at the walls from the outside, the holes are a narrow slot. But if you're looking at those holes from the inside, the stones taper out. And the reason is very simple. If you're defending the city and you have a gun, you want to be able to go in either direction. If it's a narrow slot, you can only shoot straight. But if it opens up and it's tapered, you can shoot in either direction. So how come you don't have a big hole? Because then they can shoot you. So the whole purpose is you have a full radius. They don't. You have a full range. They don't. But it's also for light. Because if light comes into a slot, it will spread out in all directions unless you put it through two loops, right? So therefore, the small slot will spread light everywhere. So oibazoi, which way does it make sense to make those slots? Exactly like it is in the walls of the old city, where we don't want anything to come. We don't want anything to come about light, but we want the light to bathe us. But if we have light in the city, it will be barely visible out of the city because it's just a slot. But light out of the city will come in. So Zog to Gemara, the pasuk tells us when they built the Beis Hamikdash, the windows were built the opposite of the way that they were built in the old city. We learned shkufim. They were wide open. There were tiny slots on the inside, and they were open on the outside. You know why? Because not the light outside was the source of light for inside the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash itself was a source of light for all the area around it. So therefore, it was built that way. When we're talking about the menorah, we say it's michutz lapareichas ha'edus ba'oil moed. Edusu, the menorah is an edus l'chol b'ay ha'olam shashchina shayir b'Yisrael. How is that an edus? And you want to say that the menorah is in the Beis Hamikdash because Hashem needs the light? They used the Kadosh Baruch Hu's nisim as lights of the Amora Anon. So Avada, Hashem doesn't need light. Hashem is the source of light. There are those who ask, "What's happened? Onkommen to the Amud Eish? What about the sun every day?" Right? So the Rishonim say we're trying to show Shashchina Shayir B'Yisrael. We're trying to show a special nisim that the Rebbeinu made for Klal Yisrael. How in the world do you see from the Menorah episode Edus Shashchina Shayir B'Yisrael? Amarava zener maravi shenoistin b'Hashem keneged chavruseha. When they filled up the neirs with oil to light, they put in the same amount of oil, a half a loig, into every nair. But they all burned out by the morning. But the ner maravi stayed lit until the late afternoon, and they used it to light all the others. That was the last one that they ended up lighting. So now there's a big shaila in Yerushalayim how this was oishkishtalt. You saw the menorah. Did you see the 7 branches? Meaning the menorah was spread from north to south? Or did you see the narrow profile because the menorah was spread from east to west? So some of the Rishonim learned it was spread from east to west, from north to south. But if that's the case, they're all Maravis. They're all exactly as close to the east as they are to the west. So they tell us that all of the neiros, the spouts, face the inside, but the center nair, its spouts face the Kodashim, face the Maravi. That was the one that stayed lit the longest. But there's another pshat in what Ner Maravi means, and the Ner was set up from east to west. So when you walk in, you saw a narrow profile. So what's Ner Maravi? You would think the one closest to the Pareichas. No.
Psychology.
The first 2 Neres would stay lit, it's brought down. And what would happen is the Ner Maravi would be the second Ner, because it's the first one that you can consider Maravi, because it's the only one that has one to the east.
I know in the
Maravi was the second there from the right. Was the second there from the right or from the
therapy. It says therapy.
It was the second there from the east that you encountered, and that was one who lasted all the way. So no, except some artists in Svas. But Toysvis explains that what would happen is the nair would stay lit, and what they would do is they would be made of all the nairs, and then they would take the Ner Maravi wick out, and it was still burning, and they relit it, and then they lit it again. So that was Baal Messiah, because the last one they lit was the Ner Maravi, because they had all the way to the end, they took the wick out, and then they cleaned it out and put a new wick in with a new thing, and they lit it with the Ner Maravi. So the Torah gets into a whole shaila. Did you light one from the other? There's one shot that it would just be a very long wick, and the way they lit one from the other was by just extending the wick from one to the other, but they didn't move the whole Ner over. There's a whole discussion as to how they lit the other ones with the Ner Maravi, and it's brought down that after the days of Shimon HaTzadik, where they no longer had the nace of the Ner Maravi staying lit so long, what they would do is first thing in the morning, they would refill the Ner Maravi so that it could be lit, so they could do the same process. I guess Torah says, why would they do it? It must be a zecher to when they had a nace, they wanted to continue the same process. Zok the Heilige Mishnah weiter. How about the wine? Zok the Gemara Keduchim Va'atulin. Those were the places that Alpha Layayin had the best wine. Shnialan, the second best wine, was from Beis Rimmon, Beis Lavan in the mountains. Bahar Ukfar Signa Bebika. Kolai Ratas or Yuksheros. Really, anywhere you would bring quality wine from would be good. El Mikan Hayim Mivin. Like we learned, because either it means it's a lower grade soil, or because maybe some of the odor goes in. Because if it needs special irrigation, it's shvacher soil. But if the stuff grown in between them, it will also shvachen up the soil. From heavy, but if you brought it, it would be kosher. Listion is wine that's very sweet because the grapes were left out in the sun, and the sun sweetened them. Vim heavy, kosher. Emevin Yoshan, you'll have old wine, which Rashi says means from last year. Now, how could you say you can't bring sweet wine if a minute ago we said you could bring sweet wine? Listion. I'm sorry, you can't bring Listion either. But here we'll say if it may be puzzle. Why is it puzzle sweet wine when Listion wasn't puzzle? So Rashi says that Listion means it was regular good grapes, but Vibalt, they were left out in the sun sweetened them. Masak are shvacher, grade grape that Mineu they become sweet. That would be my favorite wine. Grade. That's one pshat of Mosek. The other pshat of Mosek means it's grape juice. And Toshua says, how could you say that grape juice is possible? Toshua brings a brayso that grape juice is kosher. So therefore, Toshua argues on Rashi Shekem Pshat. V'lei me'ushan, it can't be smoked wine. V'lei me'vushal, not cooked wine. V'mhevi puzzle. V'ein mevin min adaliyos. Anyone who ever had an Italian and Portuguese neighbor, they for sure had like a framework set up over their garage or over their driveway, and they used to extend vines. They grow vines. Did you ever have such a neighbor who grew? You ever saw it walking down the street? It was very famous, very common. It's very common by the Italians. That wouldn't be good wine. You know why? Because the actual plants are too far from the ground to be yoinik. Element arakiloyus, the one that creeps along the ground, because they suck much more nourishment out of the karka. You can't get it from a neglected vineyard. It has to be where they were doing the work on them. You know, whatever you do, you dig around, you aerate. The Gemara is going to say exactly how frequent you have to service them, but I'll call upon them, they need to be serviced vineyards. You don't gather all the grapes in big vats. Rather in smaller jugs. I'm not sure if that's referring to the wine or if it's referring to the grapes. I think it's the wine. Okay? You're not allowed to fill the barrel to the top. It needs a little bit of open air space so that it can off gas a little bit. When you take wine out of the barrel, don't take from the top of the barrel, because sometimes mold spores will settle at the top. You definitely don't want to bring the sachim from that wine. Don't take from the bottom of the barrel, because you might get shmarim. where should you stick your spigot? In the center of the barrel to take only the wine from the middle. Maybe mishlisha me'emtza. There's all shaila if it's mishlisha u'me'emtza. Shlisha me'emtza is mashma, the center of the second third, which means you're only going to get half of that third, what's above it, not below. So if there are those laws at mishlisha or u'me'emtza, meaning you could take the full middle third of the barrel, not too close to the top, not too close to the bottom. Now the problem is, as you're draining, how do you know when to shut off your spigot? How do you know when to do the water level? They don't have a side class. It's not like our Chinese that have that side class. So how do they know when to go? So the Gemara is going to tell us that wine is damaged by the voice of a person. Shtika is good for wine. Koil is good yafal b'samim, but koil is not good for wine. So they had to do this process without anyone saying a word. They had to do it with sign language. So the gizbar would sit with a straw in his hand that it would use as like a conductor stick. Zorak hagir, they opened up the spigot and wine is shooting out in the stream. And as soon as the gizbar realizes that we got our center third and any more is in the danger zone, he gives a tap on the barrel, which is an indication for the wine operator to shut the spigot right away. Rabbi Yosy ben Yehuda Omer, no such thing. We're not worried about not taking out the moldy part of the wine from the top. You know why? Because if a barrel had any mold in it at all, the whole barrel is puzzle. So Rabbi Yosy ben Yehuda was much more machmer on the purity of the wine. Sheyesh by k'mochim puzzle. Shenemar, it says, Temimim yiu lachem u'minskasam, Temimim yiu lachem v'niskehem. The nesachim have to be temimim. They can't have any pagam in the barrel whatsoever. Otherwise, the whole barrel is possible. Baruch Hashem, we're to finish. Pevav. Tomorrow we're going to learn the Torah to Yoker Mipos. It's going to be Geshmak Gemara tomorrow. Everyone should have a convention.
Yosy?
Yes.
With the chalonis of Tuv Mishkumim, I think it was the other way around. No, it was narrow from the outside that let in less light.
That's what it means.
I don't know. It sounds like from the Mishnah.
So let me go back. I thought it was Punk V'Geret, so let me go back. Look, because then we got to correct it. So let's see what Rashi says. Klar inside.
The lashon of the Mishnah sounds like
Mi b'fnim shamashkoivim shal chaloinis hainu tsar shebechaloin hoya mi b'fnim. The narrow part was in the inside. Ba'rochiv shebechaloin, the wider was muchzer klap bechutz lahoitzi oira laolam, to let light go out to the world. So on the inside it was narrow, on the outside it was wide, to let the light from the Beis Hamikdash to go out to the world. So for Keret, the light was going out from the Beis Hamikdash to the world.
So does he change the girsa then in the Mishnah?
Well, shkufim is mi b'fnim. So what does he say? Shkufim mi b'fnim. Right, shkufim mi b'fnim, narrow on the inside. V'atumim mi b'chutz. Atum means wide.
No, atum is for Keret. Atum is verstopped.
That's how we touch, but from Rashi you see that shkufim is verstopped, because Rashi is shkufim mi b'fnim shemashkoivim shachalonis how you need tsar. So shkufim he learns is tsar. So if he learns shkufim is tsar, narrow, then it must be by autumn means big. Even though we always in our minds we know autumn is verstopped, but
yeah,
but that's not how Rashi is teaching it. Rashi is teaching shkufim as verstopped. I got also confused when I learned it, but Rashi clearly says that shkufim means verstopped.
Which Rashi are you learning? The Rashi, regular Rashi?
I'm looking at the Rashi on top. Shkuvim mi b'fnim, shemashkuvim shachlonis haynu tsar. Let's look at the Rashi.
Shkuvim b'chutz, rechavim b'chutz.
So I was learning the up Rashi. The bottom Rashi would be share. V'atum mi b'fnim, ufiyim atum v'katzim mi b'fnim. V'derech koisel avonim k'she'oisen chaloin marchibin oisai mi b'fnim. So he says exactly like you. So must be my ve'akoisel mikol tzad kedei she'layistam mineka ve'akoisel so'ira b'yulav v'lotzadin. Av'layechal yikotzim mi b'fnim u'marchav oilech l'tzad chutz. No, he does say that. He does the same thing.
No, but shkufim.
So maybe he changes the word. He says atumim mi b'fnim, and our Gemara is going shkufim mi b'fnim. So the Ksav Yad Rashi changes the gear. So you're right. So they both agreed to the pshat that it was narrow on the inside and wide on the outside. The question is shkufim called narrow or is atumim called narrow?
Right. Okay. I hear. Fine. Okay.
Be open-minded as to what pshat is
right.
in shkufim.
Right.
But whatever However you touch those words, the mitzias was that it was a narrow slot on the inside and wide on the outside. I once went to a vort for my cousin Yosy made a vort. He runs a beautiful Yiddish shtib, and his shver Rabbi Eisker spoke. So he spoke on this Gemara. He said most houses you let light in, but this house is a lichtig house and lets light out to everybody around him. It's mashpia gewaltig.
What time are you learning tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're learning an hour before mincha.
We're
not learning tomorrow night because it's Yom Tov,
right.
But Motzi Yom Tov we'll learn again at 9:45.
Okay.
I'll have to forgo my instant pizza right after the Zman. My pizza will be the puz.
I hear. Okay.
Gewaltig.
You don't